Marcus Taylor had always wanted his own backyard pool where he could relax after long days at the office, host friends and family, and enjoy the simple pleasure of a cool swim in the summer heat. The sparkling blue pool was the crowning glory of his new life when he finally purchased it in Oakwood Estates, a peaceful green suburb. He kept it spotless by skimming the leaves every morning, checking the chemicals, and always locking the gate. The pool was more than just a luxury for Marcus. It was a reminder how far he had come and a reward for years of perseverance and hard work. However, as he soon discovered, not everyone at Oakwood Estates adhered to boundaries, particularly not Linda Cartwright, the president of the Homeowners Association and the self-proclaimed guardian of community standards. Linda was the kind of neighbor who seemed to think she didn't need to follow the rules. She had written notes about Marcus' non-regulation patio furniture, criticized the shade of his pool umbrella, and once measured his grass with a ruler. It was evident that Linda considered herself to be the king of the cul-de-sac. So Marcus made an effort to maintain civility by responding politely to her emails and making small concessions whenever he could. Marcus noticed little oddities around the pool at the beginning of June, such as wet footprints on the deck in the morning, a towel draped over a chair that wasn't his, and a faint scent of perfume in the air. This was the beginning of the real problem. He thought at first that maybe a kid from the neighborhood had jumped the fence to go swimming at midnight, but the evidence didn't add up. The towel had the monogrammed initials Elsie, and the footprints were too small for a teenager. Marcus' suspicions grew, but he didn't have any proof until the next morning, when he looked at the footage on a security camera and was surprised to see Linda slipping to the side gate with a towel in her hand and easing into his pool like she owned it. Before leaving just before sunrise, she swam leisurely laps, sunbathed on his lounge chair, and even took a bottle of water from his outdoor fridge. Marcus was enraged, but also perplexed. Why, of all people, would the HOA president sneak into his yard and use his pool without permission? He decided to talk to her, but Linda was completely unrepentant when he caught her doing it the next morning. She wiped off her towel as if nothing had happened, saying, "Oh, Marcus, don't be so uptight. The HOA has always had access to amenities for the community. Just making sure everything is up to par is all I'm doing." She caught Marcus's incredulous gaze. "Linda, this is not a pool for the community. It is my personal land. You are infringing." Linda waved her hand dismissively. "Avoid being dramatic. Take your issue to the board if you have one." Marcus lost all patience. "When it comes to my own backyard, I am the board. If you don't leave my pool, I'll have to take action." As she gathered her belongings and made her way out the gate, Linda just smirked. That evening, Marcus updated his security system to send alerts directly to his phone and installed a new gate lock. However, Linda was never one to give up. She found new ways to get in over the next week, including climbing over the fence, sneaking through a hole in the hedge, and even bribing the landscaper to leave the gate open. Marcus saw her on camera each time, and each time she laughed or snidely responded to his complaints. When Marcus returned early from work one afternoon to find Linda hosting a pool party for her friends on his property without his knowledge or consent, it was the tipping point. Marcus was furious. So he called the police, who showed up just in time to see Linda and her guests trying to get their belongings together. After listening to both sides and examining the security footage, the officers issued Linda a formal trespassing warning. However, she didn't seem to be bothered by that. Her eyes were icy with rage as she left, and she hissed, "You'll regret this, Marcus." Marcus knew he needed to do more. He began talking to his neighbors and recording every incident, saving every video, and documenting their own accounts of Linda's overreach. He came to the realization that he was fighting not only for his pool, but also for everyone else in Oakwood Estates who had been bullied or intimidated by the HOA president. Marcus also promised that Linda would be the one to regret it this time as he planned his next move. As word of Linda's trespassing spread throughout the neighborhood, the days following the police warning in Oakwood Estates were fraught with tension. At the mailbox, Marcus received sympathetic nods and quiet conversations from neighbors who quietly thanked him for challenging the HOA president. Some even shared their own tales, such as Linda moving trash cans she thought were unsightly, or yelling at children for riding bikes too quickly on the sidewalk, or letting herself into backyards to inspect landscaping. It became abundantly clear that Marcus was not the only one who had been affected by her sense of entitlement. However, he was the first to spot her out of the blue and refused to relent. However, Linda's arrogance appeared unaffected. With her head held high and her brittle smile still intact, she strutted the neighborhood as if nothing had happened. She even sent Marcus a formal letter on HOA letterhead in which she threatened to fine him for his unneighborly conduct and accuse him of creating a hostile environment. As he added the letter to his growing collection of evidence, Marcus rolled his eyes. He was aware that he needed to do more than just record Linda's actions. He also needed to prevent her from continuing. He therefore turned to his creative side. First, he added motion-activated lights and cameras to his security system, which covered the entire backyard. He posted clear, private property, no trespassing signs along the fence, and set up alerts to ping his phone whenever anyone approached the pool gate. After that, he contacted the HOA board without speaking to Linda and requested a formal investigation into her actions. He attached video clips, police reports, and statements from other neighbors to show that this was a pattern of abuse, not a personal vendetta. Surprised by the amount of evidence, the board reluctantly agreed to investigate. Marcus, on the other hand, decided to make his case public. He included a summary of the police report and screenshots from his security footage, with faces blurred for privacy, in a carefully worded account of the situation that he posted on the neighborhood's online forum. The response was overwhelming and came quickly. Numerous locals voiced their own grievances regarding Linda and even offered to testify in the event that the matter went to court. Marcus felt the support of the community for the first time as the tide turned. However, Linda wasn't done yet. She went even further, claiming that Marcus's security cameras violated her privacy and submitting a complaint to the city regarding his illegal pool enclosure. His permits were examined by city inspectors, who discovered that everything was in working order. Marcus was reassured that he was within his rights and encouraged to keep documenting everything when the officers who had responded to the pool party incident stopped by to check on him. The final confrontation took place on a Saturday morning when Marcus got an alert on his phone about motion at the pool gate. He was right there with Linda as she tried to get through the side yard in a swimsuit and sun hat. After making a 911 call, Marcus took a phone with him outside and recorded the entire incident. He said in a calm but firm voice, "Linda, you're trespassing again. I've got you on camera. The police are about to arrive." The bravado of Linda began to falter for the first time. Marcus cut her off as she tried to rant, claiming she was inspecting for safety violations. "I will expose you in this pool. You are not immune to the law." Linda was issued a citation for trespassing when the police arrived, and they warned her that any subsequent incidents would result in her arrest. As a result of community pressure, the HOA board decided to remove Linda as president pending a thorough investigation. A sense of justice had been served and relief filled the neighborhood. After feeling vindicated despite his exhaustion, Marcus realized that he had helped Oakwood Estates regain its equilibrium by protecting its pool. He also allowed himself a rare, contented smile that afternoon as he lounged by the water, the sun warming his face, knowing that sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is to expose their behavior to everyone. Marcus felt a new peace settle over his house with Linda removed from her position and the support of the neighborhood. He had always imagined the pool to be an oasis where he could laugh, unwind, and have occasional weekend barbecues with friends and neighbors. It had previously been a source of anxiety and frustration. Oakwood Estates' transformation was observable. Over the fence, residents who had previously kept to themselves stopped to tell stories and express gratitude to Marcus for his bravery. Once dominated by HOA announcements and Linda's firm reminders, the online forum has grown into a place for community events, lost pet notifications, and friendly banter. Marcus accepted the invitation to join the Neighborhood Watch Committee, eager to help restore the long-lost sense of trust and cooperation. However, Linda's actions had far from ended the consequences. Under pressure to restore its reputation, the HOA board began an in-depth investigation into her tenure. They discovered a pattern of overreach and intimidation, including unjustified fines, selective enforcement of rules, and a long list of residents who had been silenced by being bullied. The entire community was invited to the board's special meeting to share their experiences. The participation was overwhelming. Neighbors came forward one by one to recount their encounters with Linda, including the time she threatened to tow a car that was parked too close to the curb, the letters of warning about unauthorized holiday decorations, and the complaints that children's laughter was disruptive. A picture of a community held hostage by a single person's need for control emerged from the stories. The board listened, made a promise of change, and took notes. In a unanimous vote, they decided to completely remove Linda from the HOA, barring her from holding any other office in the future, and offering a formal apology to the people she had wronged. The relief was immediate and significant. Marcus, who was asked to speak at the meeting, spoke quickly. He stated, "All I ever wanted was to enjoy my home in peace. I hope we can advance as neighbors, respecting each other's boundaries." Marcus felt a weight lifted off of him by the genuine applause that followed. The neighborhood continued to heal over the subsequent weeks. Mrs., a retired teacher, is the new president of the HOA. Alvarez contacted Marcus and other people who had been targeted and invited them to assist in the creation of a new board conduct code. Support, with an emphasis on mediation and open communication. Replace enforcement. Marcus was at the center of a small but growing group of friends who threw pool parties, movie nights, and even a block party in the summer that brought everyone in the neighborhood together. Linda, on the other hand, kept a low profile. She ended her reign of terror by listing her home for sale and was rarely seen outside. Although he was aware that some people require control to feel safe, Marcus did not hold her in contempt. However, he was pleased to see the neighborhood regain its sense of joy and freedom. The pool, which was once a battlefield, became a symbol of that change. Marcus would sit by the water on warm evenings, watching the sun set and hearing laughter from the yards nearby. He was aware that it had been about more than just his own property that he had resisted Linda. It had also been about establishing a precedent, demonstrating that no one was above the law, and reminding his neighbors that they had the ability to shape their own community. Marcus was hopeful as the summer turned to fall, thankful for the lessons learned and friendships formed as a result of one woman's overreach. The neighborhood's transformation became even more apparent as autumn settled over Oakwood Estates. Marcus's pool is now a symbol of personal victory, as well as collective renewal. The air got colder and the leaves turned gold and red, but the neighbors' warmth only got stronger. Marcus was at the center of a community that had learned to stand together, speak up, and appreciate one another's differences. The new HOA board was guided by the code of conduct that Marcus and his fellow residents had helped draft. It was focused on fairness and transparency, held open meetings on a regular basis, and encouraged everyone to give input. The days of anonymous complaints and arbitrary fines were forgotten as disagreements were resolved through dialogue and empathy. In addition to pool parties, holiday dinners, charity drives, and other impromptu gatherings, Marcus's house became a gathering place. He established a custom of hosting new residents for coffee, telling them his story, and encouraging them to participate. Once a battlefield, the pool was now a place where kids learned to swim, neighbors told stories, and friendships developed. Even those who had previously sided with Linda were drawn into the new spirit of cooperation and were thankful for the opportunity to be a part of something positive. Marcus's own life was also successful. His confidence was restored by the support of his friends and neighbors, and he even started dating again after making time to travel and get a job promotion. He never forgot the stress and anger of those early months, but he also never forgot how happy he was when he stood up for himself and helped others do the same. The family that moved in after Linda's house sold was warmly welcomed, and the past was finally put to rest. Marcus invited everyone to a barbecue in the neighborhood to mark the anniversary of the day he first noticed Linda sneaking into his pool. He thanked his friends and neighbors for the community they had built together and raised a glass to them as the sun set and laughter filled the water. He was aware that there would always be difficulties, disagreements, misunderstandings, and the odd rule violation, but he was also aware that Oakwood Estates was now a community where people looked out for one another, respected one another, and no one would ever have to deal with a bully on their own. Marcus sat by the pool, the water glistening in the moonlight, and felt a deep sense of peace as the evening ended and the last guest headed home. He had found not only justice but also belonging by transforming a moment of trespass into a movement for change. The pool was his, but the victory belonged to everyone who had the courage to speak up, unite, and believe in the possibility of a better neighborhood.